I'm not sure I ever set out to conquer things. I always, as a kid, I was always really inspired by stories of adventurers, mountaineers, yacht racers, polar explorers, all this, astronauts. I think at a pretty early age, when the seeds were sown, my career as advisor at school certainly never mentioned it as an option, but it's been an interesting path so far. I think one of the things I'm grateful for is that there was never any particular pressure for me to go in any direction. I had quite a lot of freedom, and my early childhood was in Devon and in the countryside, so I was lucky enough to be outdoors a lot as a young boy, and very fond memories of trips onto Dartmoor, at a very young age, and loved it, and ever since really, the wilder the backdrop, the happier I've been really. I'd always loved. I had a brief army career. We did some ski touring in Norway when I was in the army. When I left school, I saved some money, went to Nepal. I walked into Everest Base Camp, when I was 18, with a backpack. So I've always loved adventure, and for a long time, just sort of devoured stories, particularly of polar exploration. And I'm still trying to figure out why polar exploration in particular was what called out to me, but I think it's just the scale of these trips and the extremity of the environment. My first polar expedition was 2001 with a guy called Penn Haddo, who was enormously experienced. I was 23 at the time, so quite wet behind the ears, certainly in polar terms, and Penn was very experienced. We spent 8 weeks on the Arctic Ocean trying to get to the North Pole from Russia. No British team had ever done it, no one my age had ever done it, so it was a big step into the unknown, and we didn't make it all the way, but it was a very tough apprenticeship. It was at the time pretty hellish. I think I thought I knew what to expect, and the reality was similar, but just with everything ramped up. I mean, the intensity, the cold, the fear, all of this. I mean, it's just a completely mind-blowing experience, and in some ways it should have put me off completely, but in other ways I think that's where the screw came loose, and I thought this is what I want to do, and this is where I'm in my element. So, well, it's called the Scott Expedition. So we are retracing, literally retracing the footsteps of Captain Scott. So we're trying to walk from the coast of Antarctica, where Scott's hut still stands, at a place called Ross Island, to the South Pole and then back again. Most people know the story of Scott in the Antarctic, and I think a lot of people are surprised to hear that his journey, the journey that he died trying to finish, remains unfinished. So that was the challenge that kind of appealed to me, and I think because it just sort of was hanging out there. There is this misconception that it's all been done, and that contemporary expeditions are sort of contrived stunts, and in reality, one of the most ambitious, audacious undertaking of that Edwardian golden age of exploration hasn't been done yet, hasn't been finished, and in many senses, the sort of high watermark of the human endeavour in the toughest environment on the planet was set 100 years ago. No one's walked further than Scott and the 5 men that died. The total round trip is 1,800 miles, so 2,900 kilometres, nearly 70 marathons back to back. So in any climate, that's a tough challenge. And in Antarctica, which is it's one of the most remote places on the planet, but also the coldest, the windiest, the driest, the highest altitude, it becomes in sheer physiological terms, a really big challenge. And even nowadays, figuring out things like nutrition, training, how you sort of keep fueling the body over those sorts of distances is still on the very very edge of what's possible. And in a strange way, that's part of the appeal to me. We are still exploring in a sense. This is still very much uncharted territory. Of course, there's an element of risk, but to me, the risks are manageable. And justified by the scale of what we're trying to do, and I think I'm often lumped in with wingsuit flyers and bungee jumpers and adrenaline junkies, and actually there's very little adrenaline involved. It's it's a long, very slow walk in a place where not much happens most of the time. I in some senses we've taken a very Norwegian approach. I do this professionally, as does Tarka, my teammate. We've both trained specifically for this project very hard for more than 18 months. there's actually been nearly 10 years of work, leading up to this project. And it's not only me and Tarka, there's a huge team in the background. I've done some big solo expeditions. I skied solo to the North Pole in 2004, so I was on my own for 10 weeks. In some respects, things are slightly easier with a teammate, someone you can talk to and swap ideas with. And in my experience, one goes through enormous peaks and troughs on these long, mentally on these long trips. On good days, it's a dream come true. Pinching yourself that you're out here. This is wow. Doing something I've dreamt of doing as a kid, and not many people could say that. And on bad days, you're almost wishing you could fall over and break something, so so you can be picked up with your pride intact. It's so tough that you're almost looking for a reason to quit. So enormous highs and lows, and actually having a teammate helps enormously. And we also have a fantastic quality of communication that would have, I don't think Scott could have even dreamt of what we can do nowadays with technology. So we obviously have satellite phones. We've got two Ultrabooks, two very small laptops with us in the tent. So we use these for obviously we're filming on digital cameras. We can compress photos and video and send those back. Update our website via satellite phone. So the website is scottsexpedition.com, and we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all those things. So it's all, if you search for Scott Expedition, you should find a lot. And we'll be sending stuff back for Antarctica on a daily basis. So there'll be a daily diary entry. There'll be photographs, and there'll be film. Hopefully once a week, I think we're sending short film back. So lots to follow and lots of ways to sort of engage. You can leave comments, send us messages. It's taken a lot of work to get to a point where it's it's a sort of a viable, achievable undertaking.